Hi, my name is Natalie and welcome to my channel Sewing-a-GoGo, and today I'm super excited because I'm going to be working on my very first cloth kit. Now if you're not sure what ClothKits are, they are a brand that have been around since I think the 1970s, and they do these kits where there's like children's clothing, adult clothing, where on lovely sort of fabrics they have pre-cut patterns that you then cut out and then you sew to make either like clothing, and sometimes there's like fabric dolls and all sorts of things. Now I believe they did maybe stop for a while, but I think the brand was then but then I think it was restarted in the noughties at some point, as far as I'm aware. And they're based in Chichester, so they're in Sussex. And I've recently been looking on their website and admiring the different sort of kits and haberdashery things they do. And I was super excited when I found they had reissued a kit from what was originally released in the early 70s, but this particular pattern part of it they did around 1976. And here is a photo on their website that drew me to this particular kit. That's an original photo from the mid-70s when they did this particular pattern. So it's a lady's jerkin that's printed on a cotton fabric, and then it's got like a faux fur lining. So I really liked all the colours, but the one I ended up going for was the purple and sort of teal coloured one here, as you can see. So this has arrived in the post, and it arrived in a box, and it's come wrapped in this beautiful sort of measuring tape style ribbon, which is quite fun. And I'm looking forward now to opening it and showing you what's in there. So we've got a little envelope of some bits in there. We've got the faux fur lining, which is super soft, which is really nice. And we've also got the actual cotton fabric here, as you can see. So that's really, really fun. And like I said, they got the little tape measure ribbon there. And then in this envelope, if I open this, what we've got in here. So we've got a pattern booklet by the look of it that says a jerkin on there, you can see. And it goes from sizes from children's actually to adults, so it's size 3 to 6 years. Then they've got like a teen, which is to 12-year-old, and then 14, 16 and 18. Now there was some comments on the website that the sizing is actually still the vintage sizing, probably from what it was in the 70s. So I'm probably going to be around I will need to double check the sizes on this, but I'm going to probably be around a 14 or a 16, depending on how fitted I want it. So, which is, for reference, I'm a UK 8 in today's sizing, but I think back then I would have been around a sort of 12, 14. So I'm going to obviously be referencing that when I go to sew the jerkin. And I'm going to be sewing it on my lovely new Singer Featherweight as well, so that's why I've got that here. And it looks like we've got some other bits in here. So I've got a little matching cotton thread, you can see there, which goes with the purple, so that's really good. I've got a cool little label there, you can see that there. Apologies if you can hear my dog snoring in the background. She's having a little nap in my studio because I'm here at my studio today to be doing the sewing. And then I've got these really cool little fastenings, which I wasn't expecting. So they're obviously to to fasten it, as you can see there. So they will obviously join like so. See there? And I'm not sure how many of those I've got, so let's have a quick look. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I think I've got 4 of those fastenings on that. So first of all, I'm going to cut out the sizing that I need to do for my particular size I want to make for me. And then I'm going to thread up my sewing machine with the bobbin and everything. And I think I'm also going to use, I recently invested in a walking foot from Lovely Jubbly Fabrics, which stock these Featherweight shop walking feet here. So, because I think that might work well with working with this kind of full faux fur lining with the cotton, maybe for walking over it. So I think that might be the better press foot for this particular project. So I'm going to have a little play and see how I get on with that. But like I said, first thing I'm going to do is cut the actual pattern out. So I've laid out the main piece of the cotton fabric, as you can see here. I've just given it a quick press, and I worked out on the pattern sizing I would most likely be a size 14, which is around a 34.5-inch bust. It goes up to a size 18, but I'd have to draw in the lines for the 14 and try and mark it out parallel. Now it has got the lines actually drawn out for the size 16, which is the 30, works out around a 36-inch bust. So I think what I'm going to do first of all is I'm actually going to cut it out on the size 16 here, as you can see there, on this part, on there, down to that line, because I think I'm going to be, I wonder if I'm questioning if I maybe want it just with some positive ease and not too tight, because if there would be 1/2 inch positive ease with the 34.5-inch, the 14 size, but I'm possibly, especially in the winter time, might wear some thick jumpers underneath it, so a bit like what I'm wearing today. So I think initially I'm going to cut out the 16, and then I'm going to pin it together and just see how that looks on me, and then I'll make a decision whether I need to cut it down slightly more afterwards. But I'd sooner cut out the slightly larger size, because I can always take more off, but I can't put it back. So, and also it brings in quite a bit of the pattern still, and I really love this pattern, so I want to try and keep as much of this pattern size as I can if possible. So I think that is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to crack on with cutting that out now. So I've just pinned this together just to see the fit, and I've done it on the size 16, which is around the sort of 35 to 36 bust size on that. And I've got a smaller roll neck top that I was wearing under my bigger one today, just to kind of gauge how it would be if I wore it on a smaller item. It's slightly hanging longer at the bottom at the moment, and that's because I've got to put some darts in this. So it's very strategic with the pattern. What they've done here, there's like a little triangle, and basically you squash that together and sew it together and you'll have a dart, so then the bottoms will match. So with regards to the fit, I'm actually okay with that fit. It is slightly looser on the back, but like I said, I tried it on my thicker jumper as well, and it just gives enough room, and I've not put the lining in yet. So, and then at the front here, I'm sure there'll be some seam allowance in that as well. It's 1 centimetre seam allowance all round. So It is a bit slightly roomier for me because I would be the 34 bust size normally, but I think I want it slightly larger, like I said, just because I will be wearing jumpers and things underneath. So I'd ideally like, I think, to have the room in it. The way the sizes are graded, there's not a massive difference in it, so I think I'm going to keep it at the bigger size, and then I can always potentially take it in if I find it's slightly too big, but I don't think it will be. I think for me at the moment, with it's more of a winter thing with thicker garments and jumpers underneath, I think it'll be absolutely fine. And it'd be nice if I've got the option to do it up as well under a thicker jumper. So I'm loving the pattern. I absolutely love the pattern. It's so cool. It's so cool. And I'm also keeping the longer length. There was the option you can have it slightly shorter, but because I'm fairly tall, I actually like them to be worn a bit longer. So I'm now going to cut out the lining for this. So I'm now pinning the parts of the jerkin to the lining with wrong sides together. So now I need to cut those out, and then what I need to do, the instructions are saying, is to transfer these dart markings onto the lining as well, because I will need to sew the darts in the lining too. So I've transferred the dart markings from the main fabric using tailor's tacks. I originally was going to try and use dressmaker's carbon paper and the marker for that, the transfer marker, but it wasn't transferring onto this particular kind of fabric, so I've done the good old-fashioned way. I've just done the tailor tacks, which take slightly longer to do, but to get an accurate dart, I think this method needed to be done for this particular project. I'm now at the sewing stage where I can start sewing this jerkin with my lovely Felicity the Featherweight sewing machine, what I call her. So I'm really excited about that. I've just been doing some trial sewing, and now I've got this new belt. If you saw in my previous video where I was quilting, I had to change that, so it's also really lovely. I've put in my walking foot, which was super simple to do. There's some really good videos on YouTube from the Featherweight shop that show you different things, and they show you how to put that in, so that's really good. It does have a potential guide thing as well, like a seam guide thing for quilting, but I don't actually need that for this particular project. So I've just been having a little play first before I commit to actually sewing the actual jerkin. So it's sewing really nice. They recommended on the Featherweight shop putting it at a tension of 6 when sewing multiple layers, and because I've got this thicker lining, I've actually done that, and I really like that stitch it's producing on that wider stitch, because it actually isn't that wide with these layers. And then I'm gonna put it up to around a 12 for the actual sewing the cottons together. I quite like the stitch it was doing on that as well. I tried some different ones, and that was the one I liked the most for sewing that together. Walking foot's working lovely. I'm very familiar with a walking foot because I have a Benina sewing machine, so I know how they work with other projects I've used when I've sewn with velvet and lots of different fabrics and thicker layers and jersey, so they're really good. And this one is working superbly well, and it is an official Featherweight shop one as well. So although this colour isn't matching the lining, it doesn't matter because it doesn't show through because it's so thick, so that's absolutely fine. You may have noticed I'm in a different room. This isn't my actual studio. I'm really fortunate to be able to use the meeting room in the building where I rent out the studio space, and at the weekends they don't need the meeting room, so I'm able to pop in there and I'm allowed to sew in here and use it as and when, you know, it's not being used for sort of meetings, and it's got big tables here. I mean, this is quite an old building, you see, with the decor. It's not it's not modern and amazing, but that's absolutely fine for what I need. I think it was built in maybe like the 70s, I think maybe. So it's quite an old building, but and it does get super cold. I have to remember to turn my little mini heater off when I'm recording. So, but it's really handy. Like I say, it's got massive tables in here, so I'm able to pattern cut at the weekends here and do some sewing in here, and then obviously tidy it up and put it back in my studio when I finished. Now another thing ClothKits recommended as well, which is really helpful actually. The instruction book is really, really good. They recommend that you use a size 90 needle. So I'm using one of my Bernina ones here that I've got for my Bernina machine. And they work really, really well on this machine and so beautifully. So I'm using the number 90 one they've recommended, which is sewing nicely with this fabric. So the first thing we're going to do is put the darts in the actual body. So I've put the darts in the lining. Now I've just pinned and I'm going to do the next one. I've just aligned. So I've just sewed together the sides as per the instructions. So I've done the sides of the lining, and I'm so pleased I've got a walking foot. It's really very helpful for that, for this fluffy yarn, just to, as you saw in that footage there, just to sort of sew through it, sort of just glides and bounces over the fluffy fabric, so that's really good. And I've also sewed the main part of the body, and it said to try and take care and pattern match where you can, so I think I've done a fairly good job of pattern matching there, hopefully. So as you can see there, so the next thing I'm going to do is just go and press the seams, and then the instructions say to join the lining and the main body together, where you still keep the shoulders apart at this stage and you just sew around the sides and leave a gap in the back where I think you're going to pull it through to make it seamless when it's all fully together. And there's going to be a bit as well with that, with the shoulders, where you sew it on the wrong side and then pull that through as well, I think. So I'm just going to go and press these seams, and then I'm going to sew these components together. So I've now attached the lining to the main part of the fabric with the right sides together. What they've said to do is there's a little gap here that I'm going to be able to pull the actual jerkin through. And so first of all, I'm just going to clip the curves so they're going to attach better or shape better when the lining's pulled through. And then I think the last thing I need to do before I attach the front fastenings is I've got to join these shoulder seams, which I think you pull through and then pull back through to kind of do that. So yeah, I'm gonna work on that now. So I've now turned it all right side out and joined the shoulder seams and everything that I was meant to sort of do as per the instructions there, and I pattern matched it best I could. So the next thing it says to do is to pin and turn under by 1 centimetre the remainder of the back where you had the gap, and stitch this by hand. So I'm just going to use the thread they've provided, and I'm just going to stitch all that just by hand, just inside like a hem stitch, just to secure that without the stitches showing on there. So I've now sewed on the fastenings, as you can see here. So my jerkin is now ready to wear.